Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Ashton Jackson, man. In today's video, shout out to Brandon is right on Twitter, but he posed a really great tweet, and he said, if the next offseason, and it comes down to the Dallas Cowboys resigning either Daron Bland or George Pickens, who is your choice right now before the season starts? And we're going to revisit this after the end of the season, after 2025. I have some really high-level thoughts, of course, when it comes to a situation like this. So, if it was up to me, we're signing both, but I'll discuss why you would want to sign maybe one over the other and things of that nature. So before we hop into the video, subscribe, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my Hopping straight into it, well-ran organizations like the 49ers can't stand them. Can't stand the 49ers. Can't stand them or their fans. Philadelphia is the same way. I can't stand them or their fans. But you got to also look at Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore. Detroit Lions. Those are just some organizations in which they're not having this type of conversation because they're going to sign both, and it's not going to be an issue. It's not going to be a problem. They're going to find ways. For me, how I view the salary cap, even with me wanting to be a sports agent, I view the salary cap as simple as it could be. It's just a big math problem. It's just an accounting problem. And you can solve it. You can always solve something when it comes to money, when it comes to numbers, you can always solve and get to the end of it. So I'm not worried about, what should the Dallas Cowboys do? We can't sign everybody. Yes, you can, because Philly's able to sign everybody. Kansas City's able to sign everybody impactful to the roster and keep them around and still draft really well. There's no way that I see the Philadelphia Eagles have the best offensive line in the game, the best running back in the game, and be able to win the Super Bowl alongside with having one of the best D-lines in the game, one of the best secondaries in the game, a really solid quarterback, one of the best wide receiver cores in the league, one of the best tight end cores in the league, and still win the Super Bowl. And paying most of those guys, they're paying a quarterback $50+ million a year. They're paying two wide receivers top of the line wide receiver money. They're paying a running back top of the line running back money. They paid 3 out of their 5 or 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen. You got to think about these things. The 49ers. They just paid Brock Purdy. They're paying Bosa. They paid Fred Warner. They paid Ayuk. They paid George Kittle. They're paying, they just have to work on George Kittle's contract, but they're paying Trent Williams. They're paying all of these guys, and and they're still active in free agency, and you mean to tell me that the Dallas Cowboys can't do that? That's BS to me, in my opinion, and I will never fall for that trick and saying, if the Joneses tell you we don't have enough pie, man, damn pie. Go buy more pie, and that's what you can do when they talk about pie. They're talking about the cap space, right? But when we're talking about buying more pie, extend people. When you extend people, it frees up money. And yes, it's money that you normally have to pay down the line. But there's so much times, if the agents in the NFL front offices are doing the contract correctly, if you get a 4-year deal, the first 2 years of that person's contract you'll extend, it will never really hurt your cap. If the first year, it might count against like less than 5% of the cap. The second year might be less than 15 or 20%. It might be anywhere from 11% to 17% you might be paying in the second year of a contract. That third and fourth year of that contract, that's when you really feel that contract in terms of you'll be seeing 20+% of their cap being accounted for against the cap. So just a bunch of math at the end of the day, and you're able to sign as many players as you want. The Dallas Cowboys are the only organization that tells you that you can't sign and keep everybody, which I think is completely ignorant, and that is misleading your fans. When we're seeing with our own eyes, all these teams are playing in big games that we're not. They're able to keep everybody and still add players during the season. So for me, I'm adding and I'm signing both Daron Bland and George Pickens. Why? Because I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I don't know. Tomorrow's not even promised, right? But I know for the next 4 years of the NFL, especially when it comes to rooting for my Dallas Cowboys, that's how many chances we have to play in the second week of February. Because that's how long we have of Dak Prescott's contract. Yes, Dak Prescott has to stay healthy for the next 4 years. That's also something we need to take account if we want to play in the second week of February, or at least play in the last Sunday of January, which is Championship Sunday, right? If we want that to happen, we need Dak Prescott to stay healthy. We absolutely need this man to stay healthy for the next 4 years for us to even have a chance. Whether you like him or not, whether you love Joe Milton, whether you believe the Dallas Cowboys are going to tank for Arch Manning, whatever the case, I don't think that's going to happen regardless. But whatever you might think about the Dallas Cowboys, we're only going to be competitive because of Dak Prescott. And we know what we like. And we know ever since 2016 what we were like when Dak Prescott is not suited up. We look piss poor. We're a top 5, top 10 picking team, top 15 picking team when Dak is not healthy. I understand we only got 4 years. So in the next 4 years, I am doing everything I can possible to put the best possible roster around him. That includes having 4 consecutive really good drafts, 4 consecutive good off seasons, and getting contracts done and participating in March, which is free agency, and also participating in November and not just winning football games, but also making moves at the trade deadline ahead of November 4th. That is when the trade deadline is. So we should be making most of this roster for the next 4 years. So I'll sign both to the contracts in which that they're needed. But since we're talking about that, but what I was thinking and what my ideology I was sharing with you guys, I'm thinking about for a rational front office. The Dallas Cowboys, Will McClay, Steven, and Jerry Jones are not rational people when it comes to some of the, I think, out of the 3, I think Will McClay, then I think it goes Steven, then I think it goes Jerry in terms of who's rational enough when it comes to make sure that they want to get these contracts done. Again, contracts are a two-way street. It's with the agents and it's with the front office members as well. They both need to agree to a number. For me, if I'm only able to keep one and get one done right now, to answer Brandon's question before the start of the season, which one would I want to extend now? George Pickens. Because it really, looking at the cornerback market, they're not getting paid like wide receivers. And that's like the big thing that they're talking about, that I have to keep up with somebody who's running at me full speed and have to keep up with them running backwards. And, we don't know what the routes they're doing. Yes, we could pick up on tendencies, but, you have to know personnel formation. We have to play like linebackers at times. We have to fill and stop the run. We got to make plays on the ball. We got to lock certain great wide receivers down, so there's a big discrepancy when it comes to cornerback, right? But why am I going to pay George Pickens now? Because George Pickens, if you just think about his entire situation, there's just no way he puts up the stats that he did when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the quarterbacks that he had, like Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson, Mason Rudolph, and all those guys who are just not that talented anymore or just aren't that great to begin with. Those guys, he was able to put up some remarkable numbers. And when I talked about George Pickens when we first traded for him, he was able to get 1,000 yards, 900 plus yards each and every year with less than subpar quarterback play. It was able to put up big numbers. Imagine what he can do with a healthy Dak Prescott that can go out and can make plays. And when he's healthy and when he's at his best, he's a second-team All-Pro, should be first-team All-Pro type of quarterback. He has never had that ever in his life. So I think if he comes in here and you don't sign him and he goes off for about 1,400 yards, he has 6 or 7 plus touchdowns, and he is the reason maybe as to why we're the number 1 seed, we're 1 game away to playing the championship game, or if we're playing in the championship game under the duration as to when George Pickens is in the building, we have to re-sign George Pickens and get his contract done now. I would rather get it done now, because if you pay him now with David Muguleta, man, if you can get a 2-for-1 special, you get Micah Parsons deal done, and then you get George Pickens deal done. You can get George Pickens deal done right now. I would agree to a contract, get him signed to either a 3 or 4 year deal, and whatever happens in 2030, let it happen. I'm not scared of. I'm not worried about it, man. I'm not worried about it. But in 2030, let whatever needs to happen, because when Dak Prescott is gone, we're probably going to be like the Jaguars or the Browns. We're going to be in quarterback purgatory if Joe Milton or any quarterback that we trade for isn't worth it. So I don't really care what happens after that, but that's why I want George Pickens to get signed, because it's harder to find you a wide receiver that is like this in his prime, that is that dynamic at his size and can move the way that he can move, and pair that next to another wide receiver, which they're around the same age, both in their prime. When has the Dallas Cowboys ever had 2 wide receivers that were in their legitimate prime? if you just think about it, we can go back to Dez Bryant. Miles Austin, Dez Bryant. Miles Austin will be heard all the time. Dez Bryant was a young pup. When Dez Bryant comes into his own, he's an all-pro wide receiver. We have a Terrence Williams who's young and still trying to figure himself out. Same thing with a Cole Beasley. When Dez Bryant is leaving out of the building, we have no wide receivers. We get Amari Cooper in here. You get a young, developing Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is not where he's supposed to be. Then you have Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup that are both ascending. Then Dak Prescott is unable to play like what happened in 2020. And then Michael Gallup gets hurt. You get rid of Amari Cooper. You drafted CeeDee Lamb. Now CeeDee Lamb has to be the young buck in the room. Has to be the young man in the young vet in the room, and has to lead all these guys in his third year into the league. And then you sign Michael Gallup. He's hurt. This is gonna be the first time you're ever really, shout out to Vosh because he was the one that really put us on to this idea that we've never really had two wide receivers that are in their prime playing for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of my lifetime. I can't speak for Drew Pearson and Drew Hill and what happened in the 70s. Can't speak for Alvin Harper and Michael Irvin in the 90s. I just know what have I experienced since I've been alive watching Dallas Cowboy football. So I would sign George Pickens. Why I would not sign Daron Bland is because, okay, for me, Daron Bland would have one of three things. I would either let the contract play out and let his rookie contract play out, because you think about his first year, he had 5 interceptions. He had to step up when 2 veterans had career-ending or career-affecting type of injuries, where Anthony Brown tore his Achilles December 4th, 2022 against the Indianapolis Colts. And what Jordan Lewis had did week 6, week 7 in that same year versus the Detroit Lions, where he shattered his leg. Daron Bland stepped up, had 5 interceptions. He had a quiet, really good, sneakily defensive rookie of the year, but they gave that to Sauce Gardner. Daron Bland, his second year, had 5 or 6 pick sixes in a single year, which was the most ever in NFL history. And he had a hell of a year his second year. And he had some struggles going up against bigger physical wide receivers like DK Metcalf. That's like his most notable matchup. And then A.J. Brown, he was having troubles against him. He had a little bit of troubles playing cornerback, right? And when he is led and when he has to be the cornerback one in the room, it's a little bit tough and it's a little bit bigger play he has to deal with. But when he has somebody next to him, he's a damn good cornerback too in this league. And you need to pay for that in this league, because in this league, you need to have 3 really good corners, because back just 20 years ago, if you had 3, you needed 3 good linebackers. You can survive with 2 decent corners. Now in this league, you need 3 really good corners because everyone is in 11 personnel. Everyone is in spread. So you need 3 really good corners. I would still sign Daron Bland, but I am going to hold out if the Dallas Cowboys feel like they want to hold out because they're wanting to see what he can do coming after a year of injury. If he's able to return back to himself, which I believe he can, because I do believe that Daron Bland is a fighter when you think about his story. Playing at a smaller school in Sac State, transferring to Fresno State, still a smaller Division I school, and then he goes over to the NFL and has major success there. That man is a fighter, and that man had to work tooth and nail to stay at this position. So I will still extend him, but if the Dallas Cowboys want to proceed with caution, that's why. Other well-functioning teams, like the Chiefs or the 49ers, they probably would have traded him either after his record-breaking year, or they would have traded him right before the draft, in which we had, because we could have got some picks. We could have possibly picked up a 4th-round pick. We possibly could have picked up a 3rd or 2nd-round pick from somebody who really wanted Daron Bland, and then we could have got 2 corners, or we could have spent a first, or we could have, if we had 2 2nd-round picks, we could have gotten Will Johnson, Savon Revell still in the 3rd, get Donovan Ezeraku in the 2nd round, and you just completely change your secondary, right? That's what we could have done if we traded Daron Bland. But I possibly would have signed Daron Bland right now. I would probably sign him right now, because like what Fat Joe said, yesterday's price is not today's price. So I think at today's price, you can get Daron Bland at a pretty decent sale, in my opinion. I think you get him to the contract in which you would like, maybe a 5-year team-friendlier deal. I wouldn't do that if I was an agent, but if that's what the Dallas Cowboys want to do, want to give him a contract, speak to his representatives to get him a contract now, I would. So, if That's about it for the video, man. Yes, you know what Brandon said. We are going to revisit this after 2025 on Twitter. And for me, I would sign both. I would sign both because whatever happens after 2029, let it happen. But in the next 4 years, I'm trying to be really competitive, and I'm really, really, really trying to play in the second week of February, if not the last week of January. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.